Okay, guys, so today we're going to start off with a little bit of review, and we're going to start out with punctuating our dependent and independent clauses. So as you hopefully know by now, dependent clauses are a group of words with a subject and a verb that cannot stand alone, and independent clauses are a group of words with a subject and a verb that can stand alone. Okay, now we've been talking a lot about punctuating these different sentence or clause types over the past week. Remember, if you are combining two independent clauses, you must use a comma and a fanboys. So example, I went to the store, comma, and I got some milk. We do not just want the comma, we do not just want the fanboys, we want both of those. Remember, a comma is not powerful enough by itself to combine them, and we need that pause along with our fanboys that the comma provides. All right, your other option is just to use a semicolon. So I went to the store, semicolon, I got some milk. Now, if you have a dependent clause instead of just a bunch of independent clauses, you must put a comma after the dependent clause. So for example, while I was at the store, comma, I got some milk. All right, so let's do a couple together. Again, just to review this. When I went to the rodeo, I saw many clowns and cowboys. We have two subject verb pairs here. I went and I saw, so I know I have two clauses. All right, I see an awubis word when. So that means when I went to the rodeo is dependent, which means I need a comma after it. Right? Next one, the rodeo clowns interacted mainly with the audience, but the cowboys were around the animals. All right, I have, again, two subject verb pairs. Rodeo clowns interacted and cowboys were. I don't have any awubis words or relative pronouns. I don't have any dependent clauses, so I know I have two independents. So I need a comma with my fanboys, but to combine those two independent clauses together. All right, let's do one more together. While I was at the rodeo, I saw my friend Tom fall off his horse, but he got right back up. So here I have three clauses. I have I was, I saw, and he got. Okay, now I got an awubis word while, so I know while I was at the rodeo. Okay, I need to put a comma after that because my dependent clause comes first. I don't have any more relative pronouns or awubis words. That means these are two independent clauses. So that means I need a comma with my fanboys in between those. All right, so let's look at the next one. Because it is a rodeo, there were also horses and bulls. I want you guys to take a second and choose which one you think is the correct punctuation of this sentence. All right, so hopefully you noticed that we had two subject verb pairs. It is and there were. Okay, so I know two clauses. And we have this awubis word because. So I have because it is a rodeo, which is dependent. Since it comes first, I need to put a comma after it. All right, let's do another practice. The horses and bulls are used for different purposes, but the cowboys mostly do the same thing. All right, take a second and choose which one you think is the correct punctuation of that sentence. All right, so we should have said the horses and bulls are used for different purposes. That's independent because I have horses and bulls are. I don't have an awubis word or relative pronoun. Same thing here, another independent clause. Cowboys do is my subject verb pair, no relative pronouns, no awubis words. So that means I needed a comma fanboys in between those two. So you should have marked that. All right, so quick review. Sentence types. Simple is just one independent clause. Elephants are gentle giants, that's just one. Compound is two, actually I'm change that to say two or more independent clauses. These gentle giants roam Africa and Asia, but they are under attack. Complex is an independent clause with one or more dependent clauses. You could have dependent clauses with awubis words or with relative pronouns, like while they search for food, poachers are searching for them. Poachers are hunters that hunt illegal animals. Okay, so I have while they search for food as dependent, that hunt illegal animals is dependent. Compound complex is when I have two or more independent clauses with at least one dependent clause. So like, since they are endangered, it is illegal to kill elephants, but people still do. So I've got the dependent clause since they are in danger. I've got two independent clauses, compound complex. Next one, same thing. I've got people hunt and kill elephants to claim their tusks. That's independent. which are made of ivory, is dependent with my relative pronoun which. Ivory is an incredibly valuable material, independent, so two independents, one dependent, compound complex. All right, so hopefully you've got some review and practice with that. Now let's talk about kind of one last piece we need to add to this, and that is punctuating dependent clauses that start with relative pronouns instead of awubis words, because they have a little bit of a different punctuation rule. So we actually need to add a rule to this punctuation piece up here. Okay, so I'm going to go to our grammar textbook. All right, and let's go down to our sentence structure and look at clauses beginning with relative pronouns. All right, and I want to look at punctuating those clauses. Okay, so there are two different types of clauses that begin with relative pronouns. There are essential ones and non-essential ones. Okay, so when you have an essential relative clause, so a clause beginning with a relative pronoun. If you have an essential one of those, essential clauses cannot be taken out of the sentence without changing the meaning, and they do not get commas. Okay, so example, the student who sits in the back of the room asks a lot of questions. Okay, so student, I don't know which student it is. Okay, so it's important for me to know that it's the student that sits in the back of the room. That's like the descriptor for that student. Okay. And so notice there's no commas here, okay? All right, next one, the results that I obtained may invoke positive social change. Same kind of thing, results is just kind of a vague general word. So that I obtained is telling me which results they are, so it's necessary to the sentence, okay? So again, no commas around it. All right, the journalist whose story I read yesterday has won prizes for her work. Again, journalist is really general. So whose story I read yesterday is important to telling me which journalist I'm talking about. Okay. All right, and again, no commas. All right, so when it's one of these essential relative clauses where it begins with relative pronoun, I can't take it out. It's usually going to be telling me specifics about a noun that I need to know. I don't put any commas. Okay, so let's talk about non-essential relative clauses, okay? Non-essential relative clause does need commas, all right? So non-essential clauses add information, but can be taken out of the sentence without changing the meaning of the sentence, all right? You'll often find non-essential clauses after proper nouns, because if I have a proper noun, then I know I know exactly who that person, place, or thing is, so that extra information describing them is not necessary. Okay, so for example, Mr. Smith, who lives down the street, went to work this morning. Okay, so Mr. Smith, I already know who he is, right? Because I've said his name. So who lives down the street is just kind of extra information. Okay. Next one, the Morningdale hypothesis, which I tested throughout the research, was rejected. So same kind of thing, Morningdale hypothesis, I know which hypothesis it is. So this is just extra information telling me more about that, okay? I have found the Daily News article, which I have been looking for. Same kind of thing, just adding extra information. I don't need that which I've been looking for to identify the article. Okay, now hint, clauses that start with which are always non-essential. Clauses that start with that are always essential. Okay, so if you have a clause that starts with which, like you see here, which I tested throughout the research, which I have been looking for, you need commas on either side of them. Okay, so see, comma, comma, comma before it. Okay, who lives down the street, who, you just kind of have to look at the situation and see if it's essential or non-essential. But in this case, it was non-essential. So again, I put commas around it. Okay. All right, so we're going to do some practice with punctuating our sentences, now adding this piece in as well. Okay. We'll do some practice just with this too.